I'm going to discuss clinical trials that I am either directly funding or am working with others to put money into to see if we can reverse aging in people. We already know that aging can be delayed or reversed in the animal model. Preliminary human data indicates we can at least induce partial age delay and reversal in people using existing therapies. And what's urgently needed are clinical trials to validate, is this really working? We've got thousands of people engaging right now in experimental age reversal interventions. How are we going to find out what's working? Well, I have about 4 or 5 different ways of doing that. I'm going to present those to you right now. One of them is an independent charity that I and a few other people have been supporting for the last 10, 15 years. They're located right now in North Central Florida. They have a medical clinic that I am funding that's going to do human age reversal research on a consistent basis. The name of this group, by the way, is Better Humans. And this is a picture of the outside. It may look like just a regular medical office and typical furniture and what you'd see inside a medical office, exam tables, and some rather high-tech equipment also to measure visceral fat and bone and muscle mass. But what's really incredible here is they have unique abilities to do immediate blood processing so they can identify very quickly what may be working or not working to induce biological aging. This is the sterile hood in their medical clinic, so they can get blood samples immediately over to their laboratory to do all of these tests in very rapid fire motion, very fast results so that we know quickly what's working and what's not working. Instead of sending blood samples out to independent labs, waiting for results to come back, they can do rapid fire testing to get rapid fire results. And this is one of their rooms where they're doing DNA methylation sequencing. They're able to duplicate the Horvath clock to ascertain the epigenetic age. They can do mass spec work, looking at all kinds of parameters in people's blood to see if an intervention is really putting that person into a healthier state. They're able to do all kinds of gene sequencing and other types of research in their laboratory that can enable them to rapidly identify what can we do right now to grow biologically younger, including making their own exosomes, testing their own exosomes, and seeing which ones work and which ones don't. It's spectacular. And this is James Clement, who oversees the Better Humans group. He has been introduced by me to a billionaire who is putting money, big money, into his research. They've moved their lab to Tyler, Texas. They bought a big church, and they're going to remodel the inside of that church to accommodate an even bigger analytical laboratory. That's James sitting there in the pews. Those are all going to be torn out, and a laboratory will be put in to identify what is working to reverse aging using existing interventions today. Now, their research projects list is incredibly ambitious. This is what they plan to do in 2022. If they accomplish half of it, I will be very impressed, because it's more than any other group I know in the world is doing right now. So this work that Better Humans did evolved in a way that there's now a rapamycin study. What Better Humans did is showed that rapamycin might work. And 2 very impressive doctors, Dr. Watson and Dr. Zazada, they are right now engaged in a clinical trial. They've received $485,000 in funding. And what's really good is you can enroll in their study for only $360. Now, before they got donations, they're going to have to charge each participant $1,200. But because of the generous donations they received, for $360, you get a lot of blood tests in the beginning. You get free rapamycin. You get all kind of bone density and visceral fat measures. And then at the end of the study, they'll do your blood test again, and they'll give you a year's supply of rapamycin to take home. So you get 2 years of rapamycin and all these blood tests and everything for $360. To enroll in this study, we put the web link below on this study. And all these slides, by the way, are available on our age reversal website. So Dr. Alan Green, he is continuing to prescribe an anti-aging cocktail comprising of rapamycin and senolytics. He's treated over 700 patients, and 100 of them with the dasatinib, fisetin, and quercetin. He reports very good results, and he has increased the frequency and potency of the senolytic compounds without seeing deleterious effects. He's putting people on 4 treatments a year of dasatinib for 3 days, high-dose quercetin and fisetin, and he is observing good results. And if people come in with underlying health problems, well, he's treating them even more frequently to get rid of as many senescent cells as he can to improve these people's overall metabolic function. And more groups are investing money, big money, into different ways to intervene into aging. And we love what the CEOs of these groups believe in. They just don't want to make a little bit of money and slow aging a little bit. They want to live forever, which is what I want to do. And that's why I'm pursuing all this. I want to see it happen in my lifetime. So more and more independent groups are receiving money, sometimes big money, sometimes modest amounts of money, but their dedication to finding a cure for aging, that's what distinguishes them from people who are just looking to make a few dollars off some technology that they advance. So we've got people running in all kinds of different directions, looking at ways to slow or reverse their aging process. We love the fact that they're doing it, but how are we going to plan? How do we assess the efficacy? How are we really going to determine what works and what doesn't? Well, our Vitality and Aging Research Group. This is a nonprofit that I fund 100% of out of my own pocket. And this is their new logo, by the way. So they have a nice fresh look. But what they're going to be doing is an interventions trial. And it's called the V-Aging Deceleration Trial. They want to decelerate human aging. And what they're going to be doing is testing a whole variety of compounds that have been shown to work individually in animal models and see how well they work in people. They are registered on clinicaltrials.gov, but they're not yet accepting study subjects. You can indicate your interest in enrolling in a slide that I'll show you in just a few minutes. But what they're planning to do is in South Florida only. We were hoping to do this in multi-center sites, but to accommodate our budget, we're going to do it all in one clinical trials facility so we get consistent results. We're going to recruit 50 people, 65 years of age or older in the South Florida area. This is being funded by the nonprofit Human Age Reversal Project and BioFutures, which is money that I put in to fund the overhead expenses. The 18-month study is going to use at least 4 potential age reversal interventions simultaneously. And the good news is the trial is fully funded. There's no cost to the study subjects whatsoever. So to indicate your interest in enrolling in this study, you can log on to the vitalityandaging.org website and just give your basic information, and then we'll reach out to you when the trial initiates and we can see if you qualify. And if you do, you're going to get a lot of free interventions, a lot of free diagnostics, a lot of medical exams at no cost whatsoever, because people have been generous enough to donate to the charity, and I'm putting the money in to cover the overhead costs. So what we're going to do with this deceleration trial is, well, you have to come in relatively healthy. We're not going to treat sick people with these experimental protocols. So you start off relatively healthy. We add metformin and do some blood tests. And then we add senolytics and do some more blood tests. And then we're going to add NAD restoration, make sure we restore it to where it needs to go. Again, more blood tests, and then rapamycin. And after we intervene with these 4 different medications, we're going to see what kind of result we get. And as we move forward, we'll see if we can amend the IRB protocol then to start adding in exosomes, young plasma, whatever we can do to enable these study subjects to reverse aging using what we already know works in laboratory studies and pilot studies on humans. So the red column to the left are the mechanisms of action that we are targeting with the Vitality and Aging Deceleration Study, where we're going to seek to see how we can control aging, hopefully put it in reverse. And to induce autophagy, we have the glucosamine, rapamycin, and boost AMPK with metformin, reduce the senescent cell burden, replenish NAD. We're going to be doing all of this simultaneously, though each intervention will be added and the effects of each intervention carefully measured with lots and lots of blood tests. The good news is we continue to raise money, albeit slowly, for our Human Age Reversal Project. Now, All of this money remains in a broker account, earns a little bit of interest. This will be used to fund the hard costs of the study, the blood test, the interventions, the very expensive contract research organization that will independently validate whether or not these interventions are working. It's going to cost well over $1 million to do that. I'm funding the overhead, which costs millions and millions of dollars. If you want to donate to this project, the more money we have, the more research we can do. It's really that simple. The more money we receive in donations, the more research we can do to identify what is working in older people. And that includes 4 different interventions to start with. Our objective is to find a common pathway to super longevity and then take it from there. In other words, establish a basic framework of what works to keep us younger and then go beyond that to as far as we can. Now, to put in perspective where we are today, go back to 2009, the Manhattan Beach Summit. We funded this, by the way, about $60,000, so there was no cost to anyone to participate. And at the end of 3 days, there was nothing we could do to even think about reversing aging in people. Move forward 12 years. Wow. We have multiple potential methods to induce meaningful age reversal in human beings today. We go from nothing 12 years ago to figuring out what works and how does it work best in different dosage forms. It's a huge advance. So how are we going to put all this information together that goes beyond the 50 subjects that we're going to experiment with in the deceleration trial? Well, we're going to follow a roadmap. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he always looked like an old man to me, but he was only 63 when he died. And one of his problems is, well, he had high blood pressure and they couldn't do anything about it. And that worsened. He developed heart failure. And eventually he suffered a hemorrhagic stroke. At the time of his death, his blood pressure was 300 systolic. Wow, that kills people. And they couldn't do a thing about it. And well, what are we going to learn from history? He dies at a young age of something that we can now easily treat. And as a result of his death, doctors started questioning the conventional wisdom about hypertension. Is there something they could do? And as a result, they started the Framingham Heart Study. And the objective was to figure out what causes atherosclerosis and hypertension and heart attacks and what can be done to prevent it. This is an incredible model to study aging in people, because you look at what happened between 1980 and 2014, a 50% decrease in deaths from heart disease. And a lot of that had to do with information gleaned from the Framingham study, where they looked at a large group of people over multi-decades to figure out what causes heart disease, what can you do to prevent it. And the analogies are really interesting. 1945, he dies of hypertension, FDR. Here we are in 2021, people dying of aging. Well, hypertension not recognized as a disease in 1945. Aging, though, it's starting to get recognized as a disease. FDA is approving studies to evaluate different modalities to treat it. And, well, we're understanding aging actually better in 2021 than they did hypertension in 1945. And in the 1950s, they started to progress in being able to lower blood pressure. And, well, 2021, we've got multiple potential interventions to enable older people to possibly grow biologically younger. Here's an example of someone who just missed the boat. I mean, he had his first heart attack in 1955. They didn't know anything at all to do about it. And Lyndon Johnson suffered chronic angina pain. He resigned from the re-election when he was only 59 years of age and dead at age 64. Dead. In 1973, they couldn't do much if he had occluded coronary arteries. They didn't have safe bypass procedures. They didn't have the stenting that's available today. And you look at today's famous politicians, they're all alive because of biomedical technology, much of which emanated from the Framingham Heart Study. And these individuals, they continue to live as opposed to Lyndon Johnson, who didn't. And these are some reasons for the decline in cardiac deaths. It starts with prevention and then progresses into more effective treatments. And these weren't available to LBJ. They were developed in our lifetime. And I'd like to take a little credit, by the way, for this decline in heart disease, because we at Life Extension introduced a lot of the therapies that are used today to reduce people's risk of developing cardiovascular disorders, including defying reference ranges. We like to see blood pressure low, LDLs and glucose low. We don't want to see them normal. We want to see in the low reference range. So again, lots of people experimenting, trying to reverse aging. How are we going to validate what's working? Well, we're working on something that's not yet ready, but I'm going to tell you how it's going to work. The age management telehealth physician study, modeled after Framingham. We're going to set up a program where we observe through a number of practicing physicians via a telehealth network what's really working to delay or reverse aging in people today. We're going to do that. And we basically start off with an age management blood test panel, including that omega-3 index that predicts whether or not people are going to live longer. Keep an omega-3 index over 6.8%, and you might live 5 years longer. So we do everything here online, the questionnaires, consultations, and we measure your biological age. And again, to indicate your interest in this, we have a website. You can easily do that. But what we're going to be doing is using a computer program that was donated to us. And thank goodness we have people out there who appreciate we're not doing this to make money. We're trying to figure out what we can do to save our own lives. And this computer program is able to calculate your biological age using standard lab test results from LabCorp or other laboratories. This is an example of me, a blood test result. You can see my date of birth, really scary. I'm going to be 67 like real soon. And they can take my numbers and translate those into my biological age. And this result shows that I'm about 11 years biologically younger than my chronological age, which means nothing to me, by the way, because there are so many pathological factors that deal with aging. This does not give me any assurance. And being only 56 as opposed to 66, again, I need to get down back to like 25 years of age. But nonetheless, if you participate in this telehealth study, we'll be able to calculate your biological age in a very accurate way to see if what you're doing is working or not. If something's not working, we'll discontinue and start with something else. And this validation has been done by Morgan Levine and Steve Horvath at UCLA. They're able to basically use a surrogate measure of DNA methylation age by these parameters on a standard blood test. And if you want to get these blood tests done through Life Extension, you can do them for $77 or go to a different lab if you'd like. But either way, we're able to take the data and calculate your biological age, which will be part of the telehealth study that we are commissioning right now. This is an observational study to see what is working in people. We can calculate biological age, we can look at various risk factors, we can identify what is working. All kind of fancy graphs have been put together. This is what computer technology enables, where we can look at your blood results and identify, is your program yielding you results? We want to know. We want to see if you are garnering benefits. And telehealth is the most efficient way of doing this with a large number of people, where we're going to basically look at what you're doing now and what results are you attaining. And you'll get report cards. You'll be seeing how well you're doing in response to an intervention. Hopefully we'll be able to take a person who's not being treated for aging because their doctors don't know how to do it, and have qualified doctors who will be able to work with them and get their aging process going in the right direction, which is in reverse. So our objective with this study, and bear in mind this is an observational study, we are looking at each case to see what is working to improve markers of aging and one's overall health. And our end result is to understand, as they did with Framingham, what's causing people to prematurely age and what can be done to slow and reverse the devastating process. So if you're interested in participating in this, go to the ageversal.net website. There's a telehealth button. Just leave your information. We'll reach out to you when this program is available. We're still dealing with bureaucratic hurdles. We'll get it done, but we don't have it available right now for people. And the Wall Street Journal reported on the brutal problems that states erect when they don't allow telehealth across borders. This cancer patient had to drive 5.5 hours each way just to have her doctor give her the results of her PET CT scan. And a little nuance about this, which further exposes the absurdity, that if she just drove 3.5 miles into the border of Massachusetts and went on her cell phone, then her doctor could tell her, as long as she was within the state of Massachusetts. These are the barriers we are seeking to break down so people can gain access to a qualified physician no matter where they live. But right now, we have to get physicians that are licensed in your state, and we're doing that in the major states right now. So Framingham was able to cut death rates by heart disease by over 50%. We're seeking to do the same with our physicians' age management telehealth study. We're going to identify what's causing people to age prematurely, what we can do to delay and or reverse that. And this is a summary of the different experimental therapies that you may engage in. Again, the one to the left, these are the red ones. These are the mechanisms of pathological aging that we're seeking to mitigate with the various therapies in green to the right. These are already being done by hundreds, if not thousands of people right now. We now need to amalgamate that data so we know what's really working. And Dr. Barzelli, he's talking about $1 billion a year coming in soon to find a cure for aging, but we've got to be around to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, the delays that we're encountering at the bureaucratic level as a result of the clinical trials, we've got to break those barriers down. Must make that happen. Our age management panel is available to everyone attending RAADfest, by the way, at the clinical trials price. I'm going to go through these really quick, but they just show you the number of tests that you get with this comprehensive panel, not just conventional risk factors for heart disease. We look at the other ones including the omega-3 index. We look at glucose control. We look at hormones, vitamin D, kidney and liver function, minerals, blood oxygen capacity, immune cell counts, PSA. Commercial lab price for this, $3,000 until November 5th. If you want to get this clinical study price, this is the first time we've offered it outside a clinical study, it's $495. Or you can go to a commercial lab and pay around $3,000 for it. And the reason we want you to get these tests done is we want to know what's working in you. We want to see your baseline age management results and then see what happens after 6 months, 12 months when you start experimentally engaging in different therapies. We want to analyze your data and then disseminate the findings of the whole group's data to the world so we know what's working and what's not. So if you're interested in this panel, we used to make it available at this price only for people enrolled in our studies. We've had some delays in launching some of these studies. So until November 5th, if you want this, go to agereversal.net. You can order it for $495, and you can get your blood drawn anytime, by the way. But the test will be in your pocket, basically, when you're ready to start an experimental evaluation. Now, I talk about the billionaires who die. This guy, though, did the right thing. He put a lot of money into regenerative medicine research. He's a real hero. What we don't know is, did he incorporate the findings from the research he was funding into his own body? I don't know the answer to that, but that's a mistake a lot of people make. They write big checks hoping some breakthrough will occur, and they don't take advantage of the intermediate advances that are being made. We regret Mr. Broad deceased. He did the right thing, but he may not have followed through on what he needed to do, which points to the reason why we need this pathway to super longevity to figure out what we can do right now to reverse aging and validate it. We've got to break down bureaucratic barriers, not just at the FDA, but in Congress. We need to loosen the rules restricting what we can do in clinical trials so we can do rapid fire research. I want to remind the group, I support research into the reversal of human aging via the sales of dietary supplements. If you use dietary supplements, I'd appreciate you buying at least some of them from us, because that lets me do more research with the surplus we generate. So all the information I discussed here is available on agereversal.net, including places that you can register to participate in the telehealth study. No obligation. It's just an indication of your interest. So we can send you an email saying, hey, we're ready to start. Or the 50-patient age deceleration trial in South Florida. That's a fantastic deal. You're going to get $20,000, $30,000 worth of tests, interventions, medical care. You can get that for free by virtue of donations that have come in and my willingness to fund the overhead costs. That's all available, agereversal.net to log in. Thank you for listening to my clinical trials update. These are not all the clinical trials I'm involved in, but it's all that I had the time to present in this 30-minute presentation. The fantastic news is many other people are putting big dollars into research aimed at defeating the aging process. So please stay healthy, stay alive for a few more years, and enjoy some incredible breakthroughs that are just around the corner in defeating our common enemy, biological aging. We're on the verge of doing it. Stay healthy, stay alive. Thank you.